I am a Black American and I absolutely love to travel to the continent of Africa. It's my favorite continent in the whole wide world. But one of my biggest fears is that the more Black Americans come to this continent, they will not handle it with grace and with care. So, for example, I am in Ghana right now and I'm getting messages and people are sending me texts of people who had a bad experience at a festival or like all two people who got their phone stolen. And people are like, oh my God, I'm afraid. I can't come. They don't have their stuff together. This, that. And I'm like, that is their experience. It's not my job to negate or validate somebody's personal experience. That is what happened to them. But I just wish more Black Americans handled the systems that they think need to be in place with more care, understanding the historical context for why those conditions actually exist. And also understand that negative news about the continent literally drives people's internalized fear that Africa is inherently bad, and it literally feeds stereotypes. I'm not telling people how they should feel. I'm just saying that as Black Americans, with all your Western ideology and our privilege and our internalized challenges with the continent already, let's make sure we handle it with more care and more grace.
She was making some very interesting and valid points. Go back and watch her video, but I just also would like to add, while Black Americans are going to African countries and then ishing on the countries, talking bad about them and then leaving, the Chinese, the European, the British, the Danish, all of them, they're going into Africa. They're stealing resources. So while Black people are over here bickering and talking bad about, oh, I got stolen from in Africa, don't go to Africa, like you don't get stolen from in New York and Detroit and anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the world, you're not going to get stolen from. The white man is going over there and using your birthright to get rich.
Whenever you decide to buy a ticket and visit another country, predominantly Africa or the Caribbean, can you please make sure to leave that stereotypical mindset that was inflicted upon you by these white people that oppressed you at the door before you enter? And if you can't do that, simply don't go. Girl went to Africa and someone got injured. Oh my God, someone got injured. Someone's phone got stolen. Oh my God, someone's phone got stolen. Sweetheart, you are from a country where a teenager can go to Walmart and buy a gun. America has the highest number of serial killers. You are from a country where when a white teenager feels depressed, he goes and shoots up a school. You are from a country where people who look exactly like you get murdered in broad daylight with all the evidence to show that they were actually murdered and never get any justice. So please explain to me how you can boldly acknowledge crime or incidents elsewhere, but you can't notice it in your own backyard. So crazy to me how the Western world have conditioned and convinced themselves and the people in their community to believe that crime exists everywhere else apart from the Western world. No, because let me do this again. Did people not die at Ariana Grande's concert in Manchester, England? Did Kim Kardashian not get robbed at gunpoint in Paris? And yet you still only acknowledge that crime exists in Africa? Some of these people are the same ones who will come on social media and make these stereotypical jokes about Africa, about the fact that Africa doesn't have any water. Meanwhile, Michigan don't have none neither. You lot will come on this app and stay shouting about how they live in mud huts and how they live in trees, but will never take a moment to look at the statistics of homelessness in LA and New York. People like you will come on this app and stay preaching and talking about how impoverished and poor and disadvantaged and how sad it is to be African and live in Africa because of how Africa is. Meanwhile, you're getting oppressed in your own country. Believe it or not, it's the same way when some of them go to the Caribbean. And you know, funny enough, same thing happens in Jamaica, same thing.
Originally, I wasn't going to make this video because, this happened a good while ago and at the moment it's kind of cold, but I decided now after giving it some thoughts that Let's have this conversation really. Now, this particular issue or this particular topic has already been addressed by both African Americans and non-African Americans alike. They've already done the educating, so I'm not going to be repeating anything that they've already said. I'm going to be inserting their clips, right? I want us, on the other hand, to have an entirely different conversation. And the angle I want to come from is very simple. I am someone who likes to have a two-sided dimensional conversation, right? Thinking about what's best for one side and what's best for the other side. And what I want to say is very simple. We at this point should know how dangerous stereotyping is and what it could lead to. You guys already know I don't pick sides. I don't participate in this us versus them thing that some of us like to participate in. There is no us, there is no them. It's just us. The sooner we come to that realization, the better for us all. That being said, it's about time we as a collective understand how we can individually within our different groups participate in the destruction of our people, whether it's our people on the continent, our people in the Caribbean, our people anywhere, our people. We have to understand that sometimes we actively participate in our own destruction. Now, I don't think there is anything I hate more in this world than stereotyping and the perpetrating of stereotypes. Not only is it harmful and can be dangerous for the people who are being stereotyped, you also put people in a box when you stereotype them. And right now, I'm not talking to just African Americans. I'm talking to all of us, Africans, African Americans, the Caribbeans. I am speaking to each and every single one of us. We cannot deny the fact that our separate groups hold certain stereotypes against other groups. Right now, the topic is about African Americans, but that doesn't mean that the rest of us are innocent. And when you actually look into the history of how these stereotypes that we hold come to be, we did not even cook any of this ish up by ourselves. They were fed to us either by the media or whatever. Right? So we bought into the ideas of other people and we ran with them. And it is very unhealthy that it is 2023 and some of us still hold these unhealthy beliefs. And not only that, we help to promote them. There is this saying I heard, I'm going to be paraphrasing here, that the illiterate of the, is it 20th or 20th century? I've forgotten. Basically, the saying is the illiterates are going to be those that cannot unlearn the negative things that they learned so they can learn the positives, right? Those that cannot unlearn to relearn are going to be the illiterates of the modern world. There are some things that we as a people are carrying around with us, baggages, right? Baggages that did not benefit us in the past, they certainly are not benefiting us in the present, and they most definitely won't benefit us in the future. So what are we carrying these baggages around us for?
Respectfully, some of you are not mentally prepared to go to Africa. Some of you will go to Africa and have a bad experience and label that as a universal experience that can happen to anyone. That itself tarnished the name, the country, and the experience of other people that wants to visit those countries in Africa. Because Africa is a continent that has 54 countries. That said, those implicit biases are both harmful and detrimental because again, it always portrays Africa in a bad light. I saw this recently when I saw an influencer go to Seychelles, which is the country that I was from. Apparently, she was supposedly working with the tourism board to do content in exchange for a trip, and then had one bad experience with an individual at the airport and then labeled the whole country as and anti-black, which again takes a level of entitlement. And anti-blackness exists in America, if not more prominent in America. The list goes on of things I can pinpoint that happens in westernized countries, but people scrutinize it when they go to a country that does not fit their westernized way of living. Why would you want to travel to a new country if you want the new country to be exactly like your westernized way of living? It does not make sense. What's the point of experiencing new cultures, discovering new people, new language, when you want it to be the exact replica of your hometown? Please make it make sense. If you are thinking of traveling to the continent of Africa, visiting any of the countries, put your implicit bias at the door and swallow your pride and be ready to experience the Africa that it currently is and the Africa of some of your original ancestors came from.
There are so many conversations that we can bring out of this one topic. I especially love the points that this brother brought up at the beginning of this video, and I feel like it's something that we need to pay close attention to. He is absolutely correct. Whilst we do all the things that we do and get distracted, Other people are coming in and taking advantage of the situation that's here. Like, we seriously need to be mindful of the things we are giving our energy to. Are we giving our energy to things that are going to be beneficial to us and our people, or are we giving our energy to things that are going to tear our people down? At the end of the day, it truly is up to us. That is why you would not see me ever post, repost, retweet, whatever, anything that I feel like is going to help feed a certain negative narrative that is out there about any of our various groups of people. I want pluses, not minuses. If it's not going to be beneficial to our people, you won't see me participating. And to me, it doesn't matter how minute of a thing it is, or how minute of a situation or a problem it is, because let us not forget, little droplets of water fills up the bucket. Because you see, it might look little now, it might be looking like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, but the effect on the long run could be intense. For those of you out there who believe in ripple effects, you know how little actions trickle down the line into big things.
I am a Black American and I absolutely love to travel to the continent of Africa.
I had to give my 2 cents in this. So I'm a Haitian American. I live in Brooklyn and I've been in Ghana for the last month. I feel so much safer in Ghana than I do in the United States. I came here with an open mind and an open heart, not knowing what to expect. I was nervous staying for a month, of course, because, you know, it's a new place for me. It's my first time in Africa. And I've had the absolute time of my life. I want to come back here as often as I possibly can. I even want to invest in here. So many things. If you are traveling somewhere, especially somewhere like Ghana, please, and in different parts of Africa also, please be mindful of how you talk about these places and be mindful of how you are sharing information about these places. If you're telling people to be careful, definitely watch your phrasing. You don't have to instill fear into people. I am not worried about going somewhere and a random shootout happening. I feel literally at home. I've made some of the most amazing friends, connections, times. It doesn't even feel like a real place. I've been so much happier here and just so joyful. And I definitely want other people to experience that. So please be mindful how you share information about Ghana if you're traveling, in Nigeria, and all these places. And yeah, that's it. I just wanted to give my 2 cents because I really do agree that you should really come and travel and come to Africa, but come with an open heart and open mind.
Hey, beautiful people. I'm a Black American and I'm actually in Africa. Currently, I'm in Senegal, West Africa. And as you see, everything is absolutely lovely, peaceful. You can hear the birds all around me chirping. We just left from Guinea, West Africa yesterday, or last night, and arrived here last night. Africa is everything. Baby, I don't care who you are and where you're going. When you go someplace just to party, and you know how it is, you go to Super Bowl parties or basketball parties, you go to another city and party, you know how stuff jumps off when you are clubbing and drinking and smoking and whatever that is. But you come to Africa with some people that's cool, with some stuff that's chill, baby, this is paradise. This is paradise. So
I just want to say a couple things. If y'all ever hear the diaspora talk, a lot of us are just saying a lot of the same thing. We just not hearing each other. Black Americans do not need to be stereotyped with all the shit that the stereotype them as. But the same thing as Africans. So I'm gonna explain it like this. I was raised in Oakland, so when I moved to Southern California, every single person had this really bad perception of Oakland. Of course, I'm Black, so they probably didn't think of like the nice parts of Oakland. In college, when people would ask me where I was from, I would say, yeah, I'm from Oakland. They would be like, oh my gosh, you must hear gunshots every day. Like LA shit don't stink. Anyways, I even remember working at this coffee shop, and this was in San Francisco, and the boy was from San Diego, and he was like, yeah, I don't ever get on the train and go back to Oakland. I might get shot. Really? Remember, crime happens where there's poverty. And we all know why there's poverty in these places. And we all know how highlighting these stereotypes harms our people.
The more Black Americans come to this continent, they will not handle it with grace.
So I love Tanika B, and what she's spitting is facts. So make sure y'all go back and watch her whole video. Now, for me, I want to tackle something just a little bit different. I think it's important for me as somebody who's uniquely positioned in this travel industry as both a travel journalist and an expat to really give y'all the real. And one of those things is that I've seen so many people that are talking about, oh, the $40 braids and all these other kind of things, not realizing that everybody spent this deady December in Ghana getting their life, but Ghana is in an economic crisis. And when I say economic crisis, I mean that Ghana's inflation is the worst that they've seen in over 21 years. The problem that I have is that I don't see a lot of people having those conversations. And one of those conversations is we as people who have the money and the funds to go over there and get our lives in December, how can we help to positively impact the tourism over in Ghana or on the continent of Africa as a whole? And if you ain't doing that, stay your ass home.
First and foremost, I want to say I'm a Black American, obviously, and I 100% agree with this creator's take on, just giving advice to Black Americans that when they do travel to Africa, you need to have context, you need to do your research, and you need to not have that American privilege veil over when you step onto that continent. And I reposted the video and I started to read the comments, and it was just a little disheartening to still see, like this xenophobia towards Black Americans and, saying like, don't come, we don't want you here, no one's begging you to come here. And I think they're completely missing the point, and they're also just fueling, more of that fear to travel to a place where everyone looks like you, but, people are already going to judge you or receive you in the wrong way. Like, obviously, African Americans from America know how violent America is. We live in these bad neighborhoods. We know that we can get our phone stolen. Shit, our friends are dying every day, family dying every day. So we're not dumb when it comes to that. I think this is also not the first time that Black Americans have gotten on this app and expressed their fears to traveling anywhere. Like, you always see creators talking about, here are the places that were great as a Black person. Here are the places that were not so great. I think no one is traveling to hate a country. Like, no one is going to spend $2,000 on a flight to go to Ghana to hate it. Like, people want to love it. People want to love Africa. Like, it's in us. Like, we're African descendants, And so I think, it's a little ignorant to feel like most Black Americans are also xenophobic towards Africa. I think obviously it hits a little more home when we say things because we are of African descent, but obviously my whole circle is Black Americans, and everyone wants to go to Africa. Everybody wants to travel and understand where they come from and visit the sites that our ancestors once, were at, etc. And so I just want, one, we need to leave the diaspora wars in 2022, but two, I want to reiterate for all Black Americans, like this woman said, do your research. Don't be an asshole. Understand the context of the situation before you go somewhere, and you're not just going because you saw Burna Boy perform, but also for Africans to receive us with a little grace because we want to get to know you. We want to be a part of you. We want to embed ourselves in that culture. So just give us a little, handhold a little bit, give us a little break because we want to be there and we want to love on y'all. And I think it just takes a little bit more understanding from both parties.